All right, there's a lot going on in the world right now. Got rising interest rates, high inflation, missteps by the administration almost every single day. And of course, we're still dealing with supply chain issues. So all these things have pushed the stock markets down, but there are still some things that you can do to better position yourself going forward. So on today's show, 5 strategies that you should consider during a down market.
It's time for the My Retirement Clarity Podcast with Lee Perkins, financial planner and president of JL Perkins Wealth Management. Get ready for a good dose of inspiration, simplicity, implementation, and of course, clarity on how to successfully prepare for retirement and grow and preserve your wealth. Here's Ben George with Lee Perkins.
Glad to have you back on My Retirement Clarity alongside Lee Perkins over at JL Perkins Wealth Management. I'm Ben George. Got a good show for you today. Lee, we're talking about the market. It's down, right? We've kind of tracking this a little bit, but there are some strategies to keep in mind when the market goes this way. And I think that's important to remind people that, hey, don't worry about what's happening with your account value. Think about what opportunities might exist.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a good show, and there's a lot of gloom and doom, a lot of negative news out there. So this will be good, and we're going to talk through some things that people can actually do during a down market. And some of these people may be aware of, and some of them may be new. So it should be a pretty interesting episode for all the listeners out there today.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and we do appreciate everyone that has been listening, and we got some great feedback. And wanted to let you know, too, that if you are continuing to try to learn more and educate yourself in the financial planning realm, a couple of different options out there, Lee, right? You're about to roll out an email newsletter, and then also on top of that, I know some people have already found you on YouTube, but if you haven't, you have a YouTube channel that you've already started putting content up on, but plan to do more with, right?
Yeah, so we're working on like you said, working on a couple of new things for the show. We're looking to possibly do a video version of the podcast. We're still working out some logistics and some of the technical details on this, but we're trying to figure out the best way for people to consume some of this content. And, there are a lot of people that do listen to podcasts, but there are a lot of people that would rather watch a podcast on YouTube. I didn't think that existed a couple of years ago, but people will actually do it. And so another resource, like you mentioned, is going to be a newsletter. I kind of call it an edutainment or an infotainment email newsletter.
Yeah.
So we're not going to make it boring. We're going to mix in some current events with some humor. It's probably not going to be very politically correct. Nothing offensive, of course, but we want to make it entertaining. But it's going to be some great information. But there's also always going to be a couple of financial nuggets in every one of the emails that we send out. Probably do this twice a week. Personal finance can be really boring. So our goal is to not make this boring. We're not going to be boring. So again, this is going to give listeners of the podcast access to some additional educational resources that we provide folks that have reached out to us. So again, we're excited about it. And we just want to make sure that we're not just another audio podcast, and we want to better serve the listeners of the show, especially as the audience continues to grow.
Very good. Remember, you can find everything on myretirementclarity.com. Also, if you want to schedule a meeting with Lee, very simple. Just go to talkwithlee.com. You can hop on his calendar right there from that website. All right, so let's talk about this down market, Lee. These strategies we're going to discuss today, and we have 5 of them. Are these things you're talking about with your clients right now?
Yeah, a lot of these are coming up in client meetings and client calls that we're having right now. The first one that we'll jump into, I would say it's probably not really a strategy, but it's just a good, solid piece of advice. Everybody is on edge with everything that's going on right now. Emotions are high. People are mad. They're sort of ticked off, and I get it. We feel like we're getting ripped off at the grocery store, certainly at the gas stations, and even if you go out to eat at a restaurant, you can see the increases in prices on everything. And of course, it appears at every turn, the elected politicians just can't get out of their own way. So people are angry. They're frustrated, and that leaves us vulnerable to making emotional decisions on things. And so because of this whole environment, scammers are out there, and they are looking to compound a bad decision and prey on our emotions. So just be extra careful on things right now. If you hear something that doesn't quite sound right, run it by somebody that you trust and have a second set of eyes or a second set of ears look at it or listen to it. And I think that's just good, solid advice. Watch out for scammers because they're out there. And maybe one more thing on this Ben, before we leave this topic. And I'm not going to say this is an actual scam, and I've talked about it at 4 on the podcast and in some other things. But at times I really do think it is. During market turmoil, I think there are some legitimate companies out there that prey on our emotions, and they really ramp up their ads. And what I'm talking about specifically are the move your life savings to physical gold companies. And if you listen to talk radio, you hear this almost every other commercial. So I'm not going to go into all the details on this right now, but these companies know that people are scared, and they run these commercials over and over and over every single time the stock market is down at all. Not just right now, it happens all the time. And so they're trying to convince you that physical gold is going to solve all of your earthly problems. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. And if you do this, you're probably going to create some problems that these companies are just not going to help you solve. So, and I'm telling you from experience and working with a few clients who have done this in the past, just be careful. So again, watch out for scammers and don't fall for the whole physical gold trap.
Yeah, it's I always thought, the scammers are always so intelligent and so crafty, and I always thought that they always put their energy in something positive, like how much better the world would be because they're so smart and so quick to adapt and change.
Exactly. I think that's a line in maybe some of the superhero movies. Use your powers for good and not evil. But exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's some creative people out there. And man, when I see a train go by, Ben, and this is totally off the subject, when I see a train go by and I see some of the artwork that people have done on the side of the trains, I'm like, wow, that person is extremely talented, and yet they're defacing property. So yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
All right, so that's the first strategy. You're watching out for scams. All right, second one, Roth conversions. Talking about this a little bit now, huh?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of doing a Roth conversion in virtually any market. I love the idea of you having a portion or all of your money in an account that grows tax-free. But I still talk to people all the time who just really aren't sure of the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. And there's a lot of nuances of each, but I want to make it as simple as possible for the listeners that are out there. If you've got a Roth IRA, all of that money is yours. But if you have an IRA, you've got a tax lien on that account at whatever your tax rate is. So you've got a partner in that account. So you own a portion and the IRS owns a portion. So they're entitled to their portion. And so the most simple way to look at this is if your IRA statement says that you've got $1 million, you don't have $1 million. Some of that is yours and some of that belongs to the IRS. So if you've got $1 million in a Roth IRA, then all of that money is yours. So anyway, let me tell you why I think now is a great time to consider a Roth conversion. And I'm going to try to use really simple math for this. Okay. So let's suppose that you were considering converting $100,000 from your IRA at the beginning of the year. You were going to do this conversion and you were going to owe $20,000 in taxes or 20% of that balance. So that was the plan. But let's say you didn't do that because of whatever the reason is. And now your account value is only $80,000 because the market is down. And now your account, is down 20%, so you only got 80 grand in there. Well, when it recovers, your account's going to grow and the IRS's portion is going to grow as well. And so at some point, the market is going to recover and it's going to grow beyond where it was. But you're going to be at risk of whatever the taxes are going to be in the future. So now let me show you why Roth converting right now is something to consider. So if your account value is down to $80,000 and you want to convert now, you're only going to owe $16,000 in taxes. 20% of $80,000 is 16. So it's a $4,000 savings in taxes doing it now than had you done it at the beginning of the year. So, again, after you convert, your account's going to be worth $64,000, but it's 100% yours. You've paid the tax lien and you've bought out your partner in this account. So when the market recovers, and it will, it doesn't seem like it right now, but at some point it will recover, your account's going to grow and not the IRS's portion because you've paid them off. So again, at that point, you're not at risk of any future tax increases. And so that's the beauty of doing a Roth conversion and doing it while the market's down. It's 100% your money. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know how much I hate taxes, and I know you probably do too. Our politicians are completely out of control. Their spending is off the chart, and you've got to be prepared for increasing taxes in the future. So we've written a book called Diffuse, 7 Steps to Protecting Your 401k or IRA from the Ticking Tax Time Bomb. You're going to want to grab a copy of this book and learn how you can protect yourself. Then you'll have to decide if you want to take action right now or if you'd rather wait until the IRS changes the rules of the game. Either way, the choice is yours. To get a free copy of the book, just text the word diffuse to 478-475-2050. That's DEFUSE to 478-475-2050. And we'll send you a free copy. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show.
All right. Your income plan, adjusting your income plan. What is the plan of attack here with this, Lee?
Yeah, during times like this, it's really important to make sure that you examine whatever your strategy is for monthly income. So let me say this, first of all. If you're listening, I want you to hear me clearly. If you make rash decisions without thinking things through and considering all the factors and all the variables, you could wind up causing more harm than you actually fix. So you want to make sure that you have a plan in place. That being said, if you're concerned that you're taking money from your account while it's down and you think you need to make some type of an adjustment, I'm going to give you a tip or something that you could possibly consider here. And I just call it a bucket strategy. And I'm going to go in depth on this and just more details in a future episode on how an overall bucket strategy might work for you. But what it basically is allocating your money into different buckets and giving each bucket a specific job. So for example, one of those buckets is an income bucket. So if you're taking income from your assets and you rely on that every single month, if you're worried about things right now, you could put 2 to 3 years of income into a cash bucket. And sometimes I call this bucket your war chest. And this war chest allows you to buy time until markets recover. Now you could have a second bucket that's designed to give you income sort of in the midterm, which is 3 to 4 years, all the way up to years 8 or 9. And certainly this is going to be allocated a little bit different than the cash bucket because you need this money to grow for you. And then you'll have a third bucket or, maybe even a fourth bucket that's going to be growth bucket. And money in this bucket is going to be, generally it's going to be more volatile than buckets one or two, of course. And you could also use this bucket to refill the money that's in bucket 1. So again, if you're like a lot of people and you're tempted to hit the panic button right now, sell everything, move to cash, I would tell you to reconsider this and consider using a bucket strategy instead. And like I said, mainly because bucket 1 buys you time, and it's going to take time for markets to rebound, and that's fine, but you're pulling money from cash. So like I said, Ben, I'll do a separate podcast at some point on a bucket strategy pretty soon because I think it resonates with people, especially during times where the markets are jittery like they are right now.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's like with everything, it's just a good time to kind of reassess where you are, reevaluate things, and see what options might be better for you. So
yeah, and if you're not taking income, from your assets right now, you may not have to make any changes, but you certainly have to make sure that you maintain discipline if you've got a proper allocation and that you're done right. But unfortunately, I meet with a lot of people that come in the office wanting to know what we do, and they don't really know how they're allocated. So that's when people get scared.
Yeah. Well, I know that you look at your account values and they're down right now when the market's where it is, but when you try to put a positive spin on things, right? Trying to find the silver lining. One of those is that, hey, maybe it is a time that you can sell some of those things and do some tax loss harvesting.
Yep, you're exactly right. Tax loss harvesting is a strategy that some people can use, not everybody. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because this can be a little bit complicated to discuss in a podcast, and I don't want people to make decisions based on just some generic discussions here. But when markets are down, you do have the opportunity to sort of offset some of the gains that you've had over time with some of the losses that may be going on inside your portfolio right now. Again, just a reminder to people that are listening, this only applies to non-retirement accounts. You can't do this in an IRA or a 401k or any other kind of qualified plan. This is only a non-qualified, something that applies to a non-qualified account. Again, you can get a gain loss report from your custodian. That'll give you a pretty good starting point on what you could consider for tax loss harvesting. So again, take advantage of the opportunity right now while the markets are down.
So with taxes too, a good reminder that you do offer your ticking tax time bomb book offer that not only just hits on some tax loss harvesting, but hits on a number of different things, right?
Yeah. And so we still have people order this book every week. And I think because it does resonate, there's a lot of actionable items that you can put into place right now. If you're like me and like a lot of people, you hate taxes. Again, we want to pay what we owe, but we don't want to tip the IRS. So if you want a copy of this book, again, it's a free book. Text the word DEFUSE, DEFUSE, to 478-475-2050. Just give us your name and address. We'll shoot a copy of that book to you. I'll pick up the shipping. And I'll tell you, Ben, we've had more and more people who've ordered the book, who've read it, and now they're reaching out saying, hey, I want to implement this, or this is something, does it apply to me? So having more people be a little more proactive in wanting to implement some of the things that we talk about in the book.
That's great. Love to hear it. Again, take advantage of that ticking tax time bomb book offer. All right. One last strategy here to consider during the down market. And, we always talk about, hey, it's always great to keep cash on the sideline just for opportunities. Well, maybe this is one of those now where you actually need to start putting that cash to work, right?
Yeah. Number 5, putting the cash to work. So what we're talking about here is money that's sitting on the sideline. This is not money that you're using for income. And this is above and beyond what your emergency fund is. So this is extra money. And I understand not everybody has this. But what this cash could do is it could provide you with some buying opportunities in the future, now or in the future. The stock market is down right now. So you can actually buy equities at a lower price than you could 6 months ago because things are certainly on sale. We hear that all the time. You want to buy low and sell high. Well, things are on sale right now. So here's one way to do it. And we'll give an example of somebody that's got an extra $300,000 sitting on the sidelines. And I know some listeners may say, wow, it must be nice to have $300,000 sitting in the sideline. I heard some report the other day that just here in Macon, how many, I don't know, it was a couple of $1 billion that's sitting in cash here in Macon, Georgia. Just add them up in the banks, sitting in CDs and money markets and things like that. So there are people that do have this kind of money. So let's say you got $300,000 of cash sitting on the sidelines and you want to put it in the stock market. Well, you could absolutely do this and put it all at one time. But I think a better strategy would be for you to dollar cost average that money into the market. And so what I mean by this is to buy in the market a little bit at a time over time. So for instance, you could put $50,000 a month into the market for the next 6 months, and that would allocate the whole $300,000 into the market, into however you want to invest it. So this way you're buying in over time, and this allows you to buy in at an average price over that time period. Because, I talk about it all the time. We don't have a working crystal ball, so we don't know what the market's going to do in the future. So this sort of takes the guesswork out of when to get in. But I'll tell you, man, here's the reality of what happens when the stock markets go down. People get scared, and some people even do crazy things like decreasing their contributions to their retirement accounts. Fear makes people do the exact opposite of what they should do. And I think really this is the only industry that I can think of that when things go on sale, people just refuse to buy. So this is one of those things that's easier to talk about than I think it is to actually implement. So again, this is a time to put your cash to work.
I love it. And that's 5 strategies here to be thinking about during a down market. So again, don't look at the negative side of things. Think about the long-term picture and what you can be doing to improve your situation for retirement. So again, if you have questions, you want to discuss these things further, just visit talkwithlee.com. You can schedule a meeting there. It's very simple. Talkwithlee.com. You'll get the calendar, pick a time that works for you, and boom, it starts there. And for people that want to take advantage of that, Lee, what can they expect after they book that first meeting?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll have just a 15-minute phone call, and what this phone call is just an opportunity for us to have a high-level conversation. Let me hear what your major concerns and what your major problems are, and see if I think that I can add value to your situation. Most of the times I can, but occasionally I'll talk with somebody and they really just need a little clarity on a few things, but overall they're okay. But again, most of the time somebody's got some level of anxiety or a problem that they want us to solve. And so we'll have that 15, 20-minute conversation. Then after that, if it makes sense, we can talk about scheduling a meeting here in the office where we do a full sort of a comprehensive review. We call it a retirement clarity review. And that's basically answering the questions, making sure that we put you on the right track going forward.
Very good. All right. We got a question that came in this week, Lee. I want to run by you before we get out of here today. Came in from Marty, who's in Atlanta. It says, I keep talking myself in a circle. I've been out of the market for several years, and I missed out on a lot of growth. I don't want to jump back in now in case we have a crash soon, but I also don't want to stay on the sidelines and miss out on more growth. So what's the right answer?
All right. So this question came in maybe a couple of months ago, and I thought it was appropriate based on number 5 in our conversation that we just had. So yeah, Marty, I would probably say, yeah, sure, you've missed out on some things, but that's okay. It's water under the bridge. You can't do anything about it now, but I would probably look at considering doing a dollar cost average strategy into the market over time, whatever you're comfortable with. Probably wouldn't put it all in at one time, because if you put all your money in the market in at one time, what's going to happen? Market's going to go down the next day. That's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks their own actions sort of jinx the market. You know, everybody tells me that all the time. So dollar cost average into the market, I think, would be a good thing for you to do, Marty. And if you need help doing that, give me a call here, or just go to the talkwithlee.com website. We'll set up a time to chat.
Very good. Thanks for that question. If you have one for us, send it in to us via the website, myretirementclarity.com. There you'll also find all of our podcasts. You can go back and listen to whatever interests you and whatever you're curious about right now. We cover a lot of different financial planning conversations on the podcast, so there'll be something there for you if you go back and look. But again, hit subscribe on the show as well. If you haven't done that, we'd appreciate that as that continues to help us grow. But again, just a reminder, keep an eye out for the email, the newsletter coming up here pretty soon, plus the YouTube channel for J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. Check that out. There'll be more and more content coming, but the goal, as always, Lee, is to educate people and help them just continue to take one step forward towards their ultimate goals.
That's it. And if you get a chance, give us a review of the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. That does help the show get out to more people as well. So we would appreciate if you did that.
Well, thank you for listening to My Retirement Clarity. For Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor over at J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, I'm Ben George. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.